Hey everyone, Z-Dog. It's Sunday, June something. Come on in. Let's see if this goes live to the whole page, even though I've set it for supporters, because you know how that goes. If it does, well, we'll just roll with it. In the meantime, I'm going to wait for y'all. You can hear my Traeger over there smoking this pork shoulder. All right, let's see. 926 people watching. If it gets up to 154, went live to the whole page. Right? Supporters don't do that. God, Facebook, like, you set everything right, and it just doesn't work. I already yelled at Facebook, and they were like, we were having technical difficulties. It's like, oh, all right. Well, hey, everyone, let's do Sunday rounds together. Supporters, I just want you to know, this was intended for you because I love you, and you know I do stuff directly for y'all, but since this went live to the whole page because Facebook sucks, let's just roll with it. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Sunday Rounds. Normally, we just shoot the breeze. I'm sitting in my backyard. I'll give you guys a quick little view here. Hold on. So it's not bad, not a bad place to be. We bought this place back in 2006, and at that time we thought the market in the Bay Area was crazy, and we were two physicians working at Stanford. I had just made partner in my group, and we were like, okay, we need to actually move out of this little condo we're living in, and because we're going to have a baby, and let's try to find a place to live. So we looked at Palo Alto, and we looked at all these like frou-frou places near Stanford, and we couldn't afford any of it. Like, there's no way on earth. Even a 2-physician salary, there's no way we could have bought anything. And that was in 2006. So we looked up here further north on the peninsula, up on this little ridge, and there are these kind of old style 70s houses that hadn't been remodeled or anything, but they really had a beautiful view. So we got a deal on it back in 2006. When we moved to Vegas in 2012, we rented it out. And then when we moved back in 2019, we kind of remodeled it and stuff. So that's the story of how we could ever even afford living in the Bay Area with a view like this. We got in at the right time. So 90% of life is luck, and the rest is return on luck. Actually, let's talk about that. Return on luck, ROL, means you make yourself open to when luck strikes. Because luck, fate, destiny, the present moment, whatever you want to call it, it happens. Like, it just occurs. And if you're so closed down or so entrenched in your belief structure or what needs, the story you tell about yourself or the story you tell about others or the story you tell about others telling about you, well, they're going to think this or this is going to that or the other thing. You close yourself down to a lot of possibility that is right there staring you in the face. Like, everything is just unfolding in the present moment and you're resisting it. And when that happens, you lower your ROL, your return on luck. Because luck is just a fancy way of saying everything just happens. And if you're there and you actually take advantage of something that happens, that's a lovely opening in your life that then you can go and do amazing things with that are authentically you. We call that luck. Oh, he was so lucky. She was so lucky. They were so lucky. And that's a real thing. You look at Bill Gates, he was lucky to be born in a family that lived up in Seattle that had access to computers, that all this other stuff, and then he became the crazy villain that he is today. So that was a lot of return on luck. I'm sure he was quite willing to capitalize on every advantage that was given to him. Now, people who feel they have no advantage, look deeper, look even deeper, right now at the present moment, and see, is that really true? Because if you close down by believing you have no advantage, or that luck has just passed you by, or that you were born into terrible karma, or whatever it is your belief structure says, you are going to have a very low ROL, return on luck, because when luck strikes, you're going to be closed off to it. You're not even going to see it. It's not even going to be real for you. It's not even going to happen. And believe me, I say this not as someone who has entirely figured this out. Here, let's flip this around for a second. Hi, Louise from Calgary, Canada. What's up, Riley, supporter? Kind of like The Secret and the Law of Attraction. Yes, except without the magical thinking. So all that secreting stuff, that's my verb for The Secret. It's great in the sense that it gives you a locus of control, but in reality, there's no locus of control. Everything just happens. There's no magic here. The universe just unfolds. What I'm saying is your frame, where your frame is relative to that unfolding, changes everything. It's not like you're going to manifest money or sex or any of this nonsense that none of it really matters anyways, but at times in your life it's necessary just to build the Maslow's pyramid, right? Like, how can I sit here in my backyard and say, oh, it's time to self-actualize if you can't feed yourself, if you don't have a sense of belonging, if you don't have these basic human needs met. So, that piece of The Secret where you're secreting things into your life. Okay, really all we're saying here is keep your mind open so that you can capitalize on ROL, on a return on luck. And so here, let's give you guys a little view. Thanks for the stars, whoever sent them. Oh, wait, someone said something beautiful here. Kent Denning says, the harder I work, the luckier I get. Because by working, you're actualizing who you actually are if you're doing the right work and you're doing it earnestly and sincerely and with love and with passion and with self-respect. I've said this before, and I don't know why I'm giving you this shitty view when I talk to you. Hold on. Okay. I have said this before, that people who do, it doesn't matter what you do in life, what your job is, right? You can be in environmental services, cleaning, rooms in a hospital. And that can be the single most important contribution that you can make to the universe at that time. Cleaning that room so the next patient is safe, right? And so the other staff can do their piece of the puzzle. Now, if you do that with all your being, at that moment, it's like the universe exerting maximal effort at that moment. If you behave in that way, if you orient to that, you will find that things just happen. The return on luck just happens. And you feel a sense of purpose and connection and belonging and mastery and autonomy and so on. Doesn't matter what you're doing. But if you're always resisting what's going on and you're like, I work this shitty job, my boss is a biatch, freaking those doctors make so much more money, and then the doctors are saying, God, these administrators, this guy's got a yacht, and they never touch patients, and here I am like slogging away, and then you start phoning in your job. And this is common, dude. I've done it. We've all done it to some degree, right? There are very few people who haven't done this. When that starts happening, others actually respond to that. They recognize exactly what's going on. They're like, wait a minute now, hold on. Just to mix it up. Maybe we can actually have the best of both worlds. By the way, hold on. Look at this. So I've got this Traeger smoker. Check this out. We're making a pork shoulder, bone-in pork shoulder for dinner, because I've got Dr. Harry and the gang coming over for din, because we're all vaccinated and this pandemic is effectively over. Okay, hold on. Let me turn around. And now I'm going to get all kind of people. What do you mean the pandemic's over? I still know people in the hospital. You know exactly what I mean. You know exactly what I'm saying. So don't pretend that you don't. All right. What were we talking about? People who kind of phone it in at work. So those are the things that really now trigger me. Like if I'm dealing with anybody, I don't care who they are. They could be the president of the United States. They could be, the person who is working the drive-through at whatever fast food restaurant, right? If you can tell that they just don't care at all, and they're phoning it in and they're not competent because they don't care to be competent, people respond to that, and they respond to it in very negative ways. And then what happens is that person manifests and reaps what they have sown through that attitudinal orientation towards the present, towards life. And you see it again and again and again. That guy you went to high school with, who ended up doing nothing with his life, it's a mess. Why is that, right? And so much of it is, again, it's an evolution. So there may be times in your life when you're like that. But what I'm saying is it is possible to wake up and be like, wait, there's only this unfolding right now. Why am I resisting it? Why am I not owning it? Why am I not truly inhabiting this and reaping what comes from that, which is joy and peace and connection and all that? Not always. Sometimes there's anger. Sometimes there's jealousy. Sometimes there's rage. Sometimes there's humiliation. Sometimes there's shame. Those emotions and things like that, they still happen. They still arise. The difference is, instead of resisting them, you actually inhabit those feelings. And it's not easy, and it takes work, and it's a long journey, right? But why not start? Why not embark on the journey? And if you're on the journey, why not continue? Why do we continue to resist what is? So in 2006, when we were looking for places to live, this particular place in the Bay Area of California was at the outer limit of what we could have afforded. So, and again, as I mentioned earlier, we were a 2-physician couple. My wife's working at Stanford. I'm working at a multi-specialty group and am adjunct faculty at Stanford. And, I just made partner. And so I had a certain salary that I knew, okay, it's not, specialty salary, but it's enough that I can at least be assured that it's going to continue because they need doctors, right? So I had some degree of stability that happened from a life of busting our asses, like sacrificing your 20s, being super depressed, wondering what the hell you were doing in life, wondering where this calling was that we thought was medicine, and then finding it to some degree in my first job, right, as a hospitalist. And so we said, okay, well, now what are we going to do? Well, this place felt right. It was beautiful. It was expensive at the time, because you know how it is here for real estate. And I have no idea if this is actually, hold on, let me make sure. All right, hopefully you guys can see. We knew it was expensive, but we said, okay, if we stretch now and we really buckle down, this feels right intuitively to us. This is the place we want to raise our kids. This is the school system. We like the neighbors. This view is so connected with nature. This is it. And none of this was really here. So we bought it. We struggled. We worried. We saved. We didn't take vacations. We worked really hard. I took extra shifts. We did all that stuff. And I and my wife planted a lot of what you see in this backyard. See, take a look. And, this was after years of uncertainty and worry and stress and really depression more than anything, right? Just frank misery. What are we doing? What's my place in the universe here? Is this what I want to do with my life, right? And so much sweat equity and passion and labor went into this. Now, this was still at a time in my life where it was all about the struggle, right? It was all about striving. It was all about achievement. It was all about, how do I acquire more stuff? So, okay, I've got a car. Okay, I had a kid. Now the kid does something interesting. It suddenly opens your universe to beyond you, which is interesting. I don't think you need a kid to do that. You can have a dog to do that. You can have a cat to do that. But opening beyond the self, the perceived self, was one gateway. And the second child really solidified that. And that's when, as I saw medicine changing, as I saw the environment changing, as I said, this is no longer authentically me, as I felt the dissatisfaction that's innate in the striving for stuff. And this is not a unique story. This is a tale as old as time. You feel that everything you strive for just leads to more want. And you may even have all the family and the love and the belonging, but it still doesn't feel like it's enough. Because in your mind, you're still a separate me trying to get stuff, trying to find meaning in stuff, trying to find meaning in accomplishment, trying to find meaning in money, trying to find meaning in whatever. And it's never enough. It's the constant striving. It is never enough. Trust me. If you're on that path, I'm telling you now, I'm looking right at you and I'm telling you, it is never enough. It will never be enough. It can never be enough. Because ultimately, it's an illusion. It's a thought-generated paradigm. If I do this, I will be happy. If I get this, I will be worthy. When you actually look at that, in your present moment experience, do it now. The present moment is empty of all of that story when you really look. So what are we to do? Do we continue to chase the stuff? Do we continue to tell the story? Do we continue to identify with this false dream that somehow we'll be worthy and happy if we get all this stuff? I have to let you decide that, right? I mean, it took me till I was 40 before I started to go, wait, what? And discover that there was this thing called the present, this thing called right here, right now, that has no future, has no past, just is now, and is unfolding perfectly as it is. Warts and all, emotions and all, struggle and all, frustration and all. It's unfolding perfectly right now. And if you look, you can't find anything wrong. There's no problem right now, right? The problem is generated when your mind goes, but what about 5 minutes from now when this Traeger smoker explodes and my pork shoulder is burnt, and then Dr. Harry and his family come over and they hate my pork shoulder? Anyways, let's see if we can look at some comments. I can't see them from this angle, so I'm going to come back over here because it is bright. It's getting bright. Beautiful weather this weekend, you guys. Cannot complain. Let's find some comments. Ooh, man, it's hard to see. Hold on. How do I read these? Kierkegaard shows life as a divine journey. I would have to agree, Ali Perry. You can take it even a step further if you want and say, it is the divine having a journey, is life. You know, there's this whole saying like, oh, we're this is a famous saying, we're humans having spiritual experiences, right? What if we are the spiritual experience having a human experience? We're the divine having a human experience. Like, think of that framing and see how that feels to you. See if it resonates with you. And then investigate. Just go, okay, now, right now, what is this? I'm looking at this guy. He's saying some weird shit. He's stone cold sober, by the way. Because I know, oh, Z-Dog, have you been hitting the devil's lettuce? Someone actually said that last time. No. I'm looking at this guy, and he's saying some stuff. But what is happening right now in my experience? What's even aware of my words? What's aware of your thoughts? What's aware of the little you in your head that thinks that it's a thing that's pulling the strings? Look at that. Look for that. Take a look at some comments. It's kind of hard to see them, you guys, because it's so sunny. Maybe if I put these glasses on, I can see. Nope. That made it invisible. It's too early, says Danielle Allison. I hear you, girl. I hear you. Riley says, the journey of a lifetime begins by taking the first step. It's a good way to frame it. Kimberly Goff, I work today on the phone as a nurse, trying not to future trip about my fear of talking to another doctor who will get, I can't see it, get into my head and make me feel like crap. I refuse to allow someone to dictate my feelings about myself. Oh man, this is a great one. So there's a lot in what you said. We routinely allow others, which by the way are just a construct. They're not a real thing. I hate to break it to you. That's one of the deepest truths. These things we call others that have these separate selves that can make us feel good or bad, that we're somehow at their whim, is a construction of our own mind. It's our own thought overlay on raw experience. So the doctor yelling at you on the phone, who, by the way, if you were to inhabit that physician's mind at that moment, you would find doubt, fear, anger, futility, like all these emotions that they then project out onto a perceived other, which is, sadness or sorrow projected out as blame, so that we don't have to feel the core emotion. When we talk about burnout and all of that, how often do we talk about our emotional state? We talk about externalities. This thing caused me stress. Too many clicks on Epic. This administrator doesn't understand us. We're understaffed. Okay, all that can be true. And paradoxically, it can also be true that you have no understanding or capacity of the fact that you're dealing with your raw emotional responses to these things in a way that's counterproductive, in a way that resists what is being felt and doesn't accept it, doesn't allow it to flow through you, and instead creates stories around it, projects it, represses it, denies it. So what happens when an emotion is repressed, denied, or projected? Does it go anywhere? No. All it does is buys you a little perceived time so you don't have to feel it properly. Instead, you feel the resistance. You feel the pattern of energy that resists that, and that is a very different feeling. It's an exhausting feeling. What if you just felt the emotion, if you tuned into it? And this can be learned, because we learned how to resist the emotions. It's not like that's a natural. Do you think a baby resists their emotions? Remember remember this. Think about this for a second. Do you remember when you were a young child? Many people will remember this. When you were a young child and something hit you in some way, did you resist crying, or did you just find yourself crying? You would just cry. I actually remember the pivot point, when you become like 10, 11, 12, 13, when resisting the tears was something that felt not only doable, but correct. Because that's what your parents are modeling you. That's what society's modeling. You don't cry. Babies cry. You don't feel that emotion. You just tie it up, put it away. So then we learn that. And then it's further conditioned through more experience. And then we teach it to our own children. But do you remember what it was like as a kid to just be open, just vulnerable, just start crying, start laughing, start screaming, start running, just be so in the moment, so in the flow of experience that you resist nothing? How did that feel? I remember I must have been 13, 14, post-pubescent adolescent, and hadn't cried in a long time because boys don't cry and you're taught not to do that. And I remember I found these tadpoles in a nearby pond, we lived in rural California, Central California, Clovis. My parents are still there. And, I had these tadpoles in like a goldfish bowl, and they were all swimming around, and I was just fascinated. In those days, in particular, when I was very young, the world of life, the world of like biological life, plants, insects, animals, was so deeply compelling to me. Like, just the most compelling thing in the universe were these living creatures. How? Why? How did they do what they did? What animated them? What is this? And that, residua stayed with me into adolescence. And so I found these tadpoles, and which was remarkable because it was very hard to find those things. These ponds were hard to find at the time, and finding live tadpoles was crazy. So I collected a few and I put them in this thing, and I was fascinated with them, and they were growing and all that. And so I guess I must have left them like outside, and like a beam of sun must have hit the goldfish thing. And so, it's like 110 degrees in the Central Valley in the summer. And so it basically cooked these tadpoles, right? So I came back from being out doing something, or in my room on my computer or something. I had an Apple IIe, and I was like obsessed with video games and all this because it was another kind of structure of reality that I thought was fascinating. And I come out, and these tadpoles are all dead. They're all just floating on the top. And I remember just being like, like the horror and the sorrow and everything just hitting me at once. And my dad was there, and so he comes out and he's like, "Oh, it looks like you killed your tadpoles," or something. I forget exactly what he said. You can't leave them out in the sun, something like that. Some typically, adult statement of like, you should take responsibility for your shit. And I just burst into tears. I just sobbing. My dad was just like, "What the hell?" Like, I remember his face. He was just like, "Huh? Like, who is this?" And because you don't cry in front of your dad at age 14 or whatever. And I think that might have been the last time that I remember that conduit opening so freely without all the elements of, there was a feeling of shame and humiliation, I'm sure, but it was an opening, and it allowed this energy pattern to pass through. And that's what we stop doing, especially guys. Like, women are a little better at it, although they still wrap their emotions in a lot of story. Like, women are really good at saying, "I'm sad because Billy did this," or "I'm sad because my boss said this." And they feel the sadness, but they wrap it in a story which then resists the raw emotion. And the story is a lie, let's be honest. The emotions arise, there's causes and conditions that are beyond our fathoming that cause these patterns of energy to arise. And they want to be experienced, but we want to resist them because that's how we're conditioned. Wow, crazy bird just flew by. Let's flip this around. And, that's just how we're conditioned. But what I'm telling you is that you can relearn how to surrender to those patterns and be present in the moment in a way that releases suffering and allows spontaneous action now that will, by its definition, because everything only happens now, will, by its definition, lead to a better future because it comes from a current situation that is authentic and spontaneous and not wrapped in a delusion or a lie or a story. Does that make any sense? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe to some people, maybe not to others. Let's see if I can read your comments. Jan Spence says, "Enjoying your story. I was in the computer field on fast track. No matter how much I had, I needed more to be happy." No matter, yeah, and then wrong. She says wrong. You figured it out. And many of us do at some point. You just go, wait. Now, there will be people, and I know because I see it in the comments. Well, it's easy for you to say, Z-Dog. You're sitting in a beautiful backyard with your fancy Traeger smoker on your iPhone 11 doing a show to, there's 800 people watching live, and, you're already set, so it's easy for you to just sit and pontificate about how the present moment is awesome and my present moment sucks. I live in a shitty little dump with a bunch of kids and this and that and the other thing and the other thing and the other thing and the other thing. And to that I say, oh, absolutely. I was you. Absolutely, I was you. I was you when I had all this. After working and working and working and acquiring all this, going, this is the answer to happiness, I realized it wasn't. Even with all this, miserable. Miserable. So the question is this sufficient for happiness? Answer, no. Is this necessary but not sufficient for happiness? Answer, also no. Because when you, but it's complicated. It's paradoxical. If I hadn't strived for this, if I hadn't accomplished this level of success, then I would not have realized how empty it is. And I would constantly be striving still. Feel into that for a second. If you're in a place in your life where you're like, well, man, I wish I even had 30% of what this asshole has. He's like living on the hill and, got this Mediterranean climate and is talking about how beautiful it is. Okay. So you don't feel like you've accomplished the level of success that you want. So it is natural and normal and part of our design to try to accomplish that. Now the question is, when you get it, how will you feel? Now there's a certain level of accomplishment. Like I think the scientists actually put a number on it, 75 grand, I think, in income, where happiness is maximized and there's no gain in returns after that amount of income. Because you pretty much satisfy the reasonable desires depending on where you live. I think it is dependent on geography. And you satisfy... Let's go somewhere else because I think my internet's a little glitchy over here too. Hold on. Let's come back over here. Okay. Let's try something like this for a minute, even though I'm all backlit and I can't see anything. So, you will want to go through the phase of your development where you are striving. And that's not only normal, I think it's necessary. But you need to ask yourself, if you're suffering, right? Look right now, no matter where you are, in that present moment, is there a problem? Now, the catch-22 of existence is some people are just born with a metaphysical immune system where that just is natural. That ability to do that is natural. Others are born with a set of causes and conditions, I guess the Hindus call it karma, where they must suffer through the process of unfolding before reaching the realization. And still others suffer their entire lives and never reach the state of that realization. So maybe it's another life where it gets to happen. Who knows? I don't understand it. So the more you kind of inquire into this for yourself, the more you'll see. So that's the best pointer I can give, is you just have to look for yourself right now. That's what you have to do. There's no other time. You just have to look now. Let's take a look here. Where are we at? I'll scroll it up. Man, there's a lot of comments. No one will ever find happiness by looking to what someone else has, says Beth Henderson, and wanting it. If you need to find happiness with what you already have, you need to find happiness with what you already have. Yeah, I mean that's these things sound like cliches, right? They sound like something that like these spiritual dipshits say online. But the thing is, in these cliches are always the deepest truths. They just sound cliche because everyone has said them from time immemorial. Why? Because they're true. Not just true, they're true in the deepest sense. And it only goes deeper the more you look. The truth only gets more and more profoundly true feeling the more you look. All right, it's very hard to see your comments because my screen is this big, and there are so many because we're live to the whole page. So I'm going to flip this around, and let's just have some nature for a second. Let's see if we can scroll your comments. I needed to hear this today. Thank you, says Heather Thomas. Heather, you know they have a saying, right? When the student is ready, the teacher appears. And I'm not saying I'm your teacher. I'm saying the teacher appears, meaning the teacher could be a flower. The teacher could be your child. The teacher could be your boss. But they'll show you what you need to see. Did you hear that kid on the trail? He was like, I smell bacon. I'm like, punk, that's my pork shoulder roast. Should we take a look at it before we go? Let's take one last look here. All right. Let's see what we're at. All right. I got to spray this thing with some apple juice. Ooh, look at that. Sorry, vegans. All right, guys. This was a joy. I'm glad Facebook predictably glitched again and went to the whole page. Sorry, supporters. Maybe I'll do another show for you guys from the studio later today because I might hop in there. Anyways, have a lovely Sunday. Have a lovely weekend, and think about some of this stuff. Share this video with people you care about if you think they'd benefit from it. And we are out. Peace.